paper magic will survive like the heat death of the universe, and will...
Oh, it's a smuggler's copter. Would you like to crew this? And then it crashes because they don't understand arithmetic.
All your cards belong to me.
2 minutes into macing him in the eyeballs, I switched to pepper spray. He's like, it's all right, refreshing. And went back to the mace.
Magic is dying. I'm done. Selling everything.
I might be a hoarder. And yes,
I don't have the crayons or glue to explain this to you right now.
What, are you gonna die twice?
Oil will be worthless before magic cards will.
well, okay, Dr. Man.
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Jason.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Brainstorm Brewery Remastered. It is the crew coming to you tonight of three, me, Cass, and DJ here on the show. Gonna hit you up with all the latest standard information, just what you were looking for, and perhaps some Magic Finance.
Close your eyes and pretend it's 2012 again. Mostly because that whole Mayan end of the world thing was just excellent content, and we should just get back to like we need
The
another
movie,
Doomsday Clock.
the John Cusack movie, a classic.
It was fine.
We need
Loved
another Doomsday Clock. We had the COVID thing that was like fine, but it
We
wasn't like
still
a real.
have the Doomsday Clock, DJ.
No, not like.
Maybe you have the nuclear doomsday clock. We need like the AI takes over crypto farms and generates so much heat that the ice caps melt in 24 hours and we all drown doomsday clock.
Yeah, there needs to be a good natural disaster meets AI robot movie, right? Like Terminator meets Day After Tomorrow.
It's in production, I'm sure.
I hope so. I'm gonna write.
You got
that.
J.J. Abrams directing it, and they,
I'm gonna leave this show. I'm gonna pursue my dream of writing that movie. You lit.
we'll see if you finish before it actually happens.
That's the timer I'm up against here. Yeah, reasonable. Well, we actually, it is a little bit of a throwback to 2012. DJ's not joking, because standard.
Yeah,
not
the reason I
matters.
actually said that is like, oh yeah, you could pretend standard is good again. That
Look,
was the.
It is.
It not only is standard good again, and this, DJ, standard not only matters in the sense that it matters for people playing competitive Magic, the prices on standard cards are flying. Okay,
Nature
there
is
is
healing.
real demand.
Yeah. If you look at the price graph for look at the hot topic card of the week, Gix Yawgmoth Praetor, you can just see it selling in like playsets until someone's like, oh, there's like 10 left, I should buy them, and then a whole bunch more get listed, just a way higher number. It's like the most organic
Influencers
demand stuff
are
I've
on
ever seen.
standard, talking about standard online, talking about playing in their RCQs.
My store ran a 78 player RCQ. I played in a 57 player RCQ. The other one in this area was like 43. Like, standard's back.
I think that there might be some. It hasn't really hit the online feedback loop yet, but look, anecdotally, we're seeing some big events. We're seeing prices move. That's something I follow very closely every week for my columns on TCG Player. People are playing it, and Cass, I've played some of it. It seems okay. Cass says it's good. There's a mono red deck on one end. There's a domain ramp deck on the other end. There's a million things in between.
There's new brews popping up every day. Harlan Fuhrer won an RCQ with an Ozolith +1/+1 Agatha's Soul Cauldron deck that was like really cool and innovative, and like I hadn't seen it before. We have people just like coming up with new decks every day because the format's so underexplored. If you can target.
So I'm going to pretend. I'm going to put a mask on right now, and that mask is the average Magic player, and that is somebody who started playing in 2019 when Standard was awful and has never like I'm like the kid who can't use a rotary phone right now. I'm like, what's a Standard format? Like that's just a boomer thing that's bad. And like I'm just a modern and pioneer player who migrated to EDH, and now that's all I play. But I don't even know the term EDH because I'm playing this character right now, so I should be calling it Commander consistently. Explain what Standard is to me and why I should care and how it is better than the old days.
I don't think I need to explain to a pioneer modern player who migrated to Commander what Standard is.
Whatever.
But
it's
for
also
the
like,
purposes of this, go ahead, Cap.
It's like it's the format everyone played on Arena for forever. Every set in Standard now has been touched by like the modern play design philosophy where like the sets are like honed in and good and there's just less mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the kind of person who's like, why should I not play Commander? Why should I play Standard? I don't want to convince them. That person's never going to matter to me. Yeah, the person who's going to matter to me is the person who's been playing Modern and is like, Scam sucks, the format's stale. I know all the heuristics and I'm still losing because my opponents also know all the heuristics. And that person, I'm like, hey, check this out. There's a cool, oh, you like red-green aggro? There's 3 different ways to build it. You could play red-green like dinosaurs. You could play the giant growth deck that just gives double strike creatures giant growth. You can play the Agatha's Soul Cauldron +1/+1 counter deck. There's something for everybody, and guess what? It's all fresh. It's all new. Also, all the good cards are cards you already own for Modern and Legacy.
So I have been told for 5 years to not buy into Standard because it's not worth it, because all the cards just rotate, and there's no point in just buying into a format that rotates.
Well, because there was no reason to play Standard before. Now there's RCQs. There's going to be a 75K in Chicago. Standard didn't matter because WotC made Standard not matter, but now that they've made Standard matter. If this person came into my store and started asking me these questions, I'd call them and tell them to leave. That's where I'm at with this conversation. I get that, you're playing a devil's advocate. The problem is the devil has too many advocates.
Sure.
Standard's great.
I'm gonna offer up another perspective. For us, we're looking at this for people who all of these perspectives start with 60 cards first and then lead to Commander, and you're convincing them to do a small 60 card format again. How about the player who came in with a Warhammer deck and has explored Commander a little bit now for a year and a half, and now they're hearing, hey, you can get free stuff if you go draft at the LGS. Hey, there's free stuff if you put together a Standard deck. Mono red costs $80, and blue white soldiers costs less than
that's one figure for them, right?
$200.
The red-green deck that I played at the RCQ last weekend costs $55 soaking wet. It's just
so
these people retail.
To these people, 2-player Magic is the novelty, and playing it in a casual setting with their EDH buddies who also put together Standard decks because they're looking to switch it up, because all they've done in Magic is play Command. They're looking to explore the other parts of Magic. I think those are the people Wizards is looking to entice to get into the store for events with the Standard Sort Championships and the draft promotions and all of this, even at a level below that of the RCQ level. Yeah, all of which is to say, for one reason or another, Standard cards are going up in price and people are talking about it. With that said, a month from now, I guess 40 days from now, is the Pioneer Pro Tour in Chicago. So we're going to switch back around to that for a minute before we loop again into I think Standard for the after that. So it's going to be a lot of different Magic formats being the news and the headlines for the next few months here. But the important thing to note here is that it seems like the RCQ season in particular has driven Standard paper pricing.
I also think just people are playing Magic again at real amount. People are getting out and playing Magic again. For better or for worse, people don't feel the need to stay home anymore. Events are happening all the time. I live in a pretty reasonably big metro area with access to multiple different states and good city infrastructure, and I could play a 2K or better Magic event every single weekend for the next 2 months without driving more than an hour and a half probably. And a lot of people live in those areas, turns out. And if you live in bumfuck nowhere, you still have some options.
Well, yeah, the NRG series expanded an additional weekend, expanded their prize pool as well for 2020. We'll talk more about this later, but the SCG-Con series has actually picked up the regional championships away from Dream. Moving forward,
that was short-lived, wasn't it?
Yeah, let's talk more about that later for sure. But yeah, so a lot going on. You're right. People are out playing, enjoying Magic again, which leads us to, if you're going to be getting out of your house, you don't need these anymore. It leads us to our first segment. You've come to know it and love it. It leads every episode of Brainstorm Brewery. It's time for Pick of the Week.
Pick of the week, pick of the week, pick of the week. Time for the pick of the week.
That was one of the worst subversions of expectations I've ever heard.
Let's get topsy-turvy.
We're switching it up this week because we wanted to surprise you. It's 2024, Standard matters again, and that's why everything's all backwards. I was told all that matters is Commander, but that's not the way it seems. Anyway, we're leading off with Pick of the Week. You might find some Standard cards here. I will lead off with actually not a standard card, though. I'm going to pick a Ravnica Remastered. Liliana Dreadhorde General. It's under $10. You can get this for about $8 right now, the Ravnica Remastered version. The original version of Liliana for War of the Spark before this reprint was 15 to 20. Okay, actual double. And at times in the past, before I think it got hit by, I think there was a secret. No, Secret Lair might have been older.
Secret Lair didn't really do much to it. It was stained
Yeah.
glass
So-
one with.
There was a list printing, maybe.
Yeah, so I think when this was maybe in standard, it peaked out around $30. But yeah, it's been a $15 to $20 card for the past year, and now it's been reprinted and it's available at half of that. I like a very Jason, I think, talked about this a few weeks ago. One of the most heavily played commanders, most heavily played planeswalkers.
The card just has all of the good words on it for very casual commander players. Draw card, sacrifice, zombie.
Yeah, and like I've played against it, and it's just good, right? These are people, especially even in a control deck, where you wrath once or twice, or you expect someone to wrath, and then you follow it up with Liliana. That each player sacrifices 2 creatures, essentially functions as another board wipe, and then you're likely to untap with a Liliana and start gaining even more value. So yeah, it's super powerful. DJ, what are you looking at?
I'm looking at a card that got its first real reprint this time, and that is Ravnica the Grandiloquent. I don't know what Grandiloquent means. I have a feeling
Those
it's kind
were
of like a
words.
Toyotathon word where I just hate it innately.
I believe it's like a portmanteau of like it's like grandiose
And
eloquence.
Eloquent.
Like
Yeah,
a
I hate
speaking,
it.
like he speaks large and fast or something.
Grandiloquent. Grandiloquent. Pompous or extravagant in language, style, or manner, especially in a way that is intended to impress.
So you're
Example.
So a coverage person.
A grandulant. Celebration of Spanish glory.
Yeah, Bruvok the Spanish is like $9 right now. It got hit in Ravnica Remastered because technically he's a Azorius guy. The card was originally printed in Jumpstart. Used to be like $50 to $60. It was very, very expensive. I have a bunch of Jumpstart boxes downstairs that are just crying right now.
Recently bought about 50 of them myself for the store, so I'm just gonna sit on those forever.
Yep. Card is very, very powerful in the decks that it is designed to be powerful in. It's a doubler. We know what doubling season is. We know what Parallel Lives is. We know what Dispossession is. This card just says twice that many cards, and that is a thing that is popular. It's monocolor. This is somebody that can get hit in a Secret Lair. We are in the land of... Well, Standard is back, but that doesn't mean that the reprint cadence is the way it was in 2011. We do have Standard cards being $20, and we haven't gotten like 16 printings of Wedding Announcement yet, but these kinds of cards are not safe havens as they used to be. If I picked this card in 2014 as a $10 card, it's, this is going to 30 or 40 guaranteed. That is no longer the case. There's an asterisk on all of these reprintable things. But if you are a mill player who just didn't want to buy this card because you thought it was 30 or 40, here's the reprint. Get it now.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
All right,
All right.
Cass, what are you looking at?
So my pick of the week kind of goes with a story and a deck. I was scrolling Twitter on Sunday, and I saw a post from former SCG grinder, current, I don't know what he's doing, Will Pulliam, who won his RCQ with 4-color Slogurk Legends. A deck that I picked up and played a couple of games with the All Access Pass on Moto because of the server malfunction. And every game with it felt unreasonable.
Well, you're talking about a commander card, of course, Slogurk. So why? Of course, it felt unreasonable.
So the deck uses cards like Relic of Legends, which lets you tap any legendary creature to make a mana, Slogurk, Inti, Rona for this like discard lands, get counters, exile cards, card advantage engine, and then it plays 12 of the channel lands from Kamigawa, including Takanuma, which you can use to pick up Slogurks. If they kill your creatures, you can just Takanuma them back. Otawara to bounce anything of theirs. Soken's for blockers and Boseiju to deal with problem permanents, and the card that makes it so that this very clunky mid-range deck that goes over the top doesn't die to aggro is Titania, Voice of Gaia, which says whenever a land is put into your graveyard from anywhere, gain 2 life. It is a 3/4 for green 1, and is a mythic rare from the Brothers War, and it's at its all-time low price. And it is a multiple of in this deck, which I think to be probably a tier 1 standard deck that hasn't been fully fleshed out yet. And it is your most important card for beating mono red, so you have to have it. We saw what happened to Gix. Gix is $40 now in some places, closer to $25 realistically.
Do you get to play a one of the card this melds with and live the dream?
Some people do. I don't think it's good, but some people definitely do, because you have a lot of ways to get it back, right? Slogurt can get it back.
I would. If I were to play this deck, I would go for the meld.
I think a lot of people are going to go for it. I don't even know what the meld side does, but I can't imagine it's better than just like playing another channel land and killing them with Slogurk. I had a turn in this game.
Let me read Slogurk for people who are not familiar with the Overslime itself.
I think a lot of people read this card, thought Simic Commander number 85, and then just skipped a beat, and they're not wrong, but this one has specific wording.
I wasn't even sure that I knew this was in standard and not a commander set. It's got tiny little letters here. I'm going to struggle, but it's a 3/3 for 3, blue-green colorless. Trample. Whenever a land's put into your graveyard from anywhere, put a 1/1 counter on it. You can remove 3 1/1 counters from it to return Slogurk to its owner's hand. And when Slogurk leaves the battlefield, that's just leaves, whether it bounces or dies, return up to 3 land cards from a graveyard to your hand. So, a value engine.
But it's also kind of a combo engine.
Yeah.
I had a game earlier today where my opponent cast 4 Sunfalls and each one of them exiled 0 creatures of mine. Because what happened is they'd cast Sunfall, I would return Slogurk to my hand, return 3 copies of Otawara from my graveyard to my hand, tap my 3 legendary creatures for a blue apiece, have a little extra mana left over, and Otawara all 3 of my creatures back to my hand.
I've done that Otawara trick a time or two in Modern / Historic with Merfolk, and I bet it feels even better when you get to loop your Otawaras.
What's also like, you have a game where I had a game earlier where I untapped with a 4/4 Slogurk, an Inti, a Rona, a Relic of Legends, and like 6 lands or something, and by the time the turn ended, my Slogurk was like a 17 power trampler because I just channeled a bunch of Takanumas, played another Slogurk, let it die to the Legend rule, brought back my Takanumas. And every time I played Legend, Rona untapped. Every time I discarded a channel land, I got to exile a card with Inti. And the deck just gets to do completely busted things if it's uninterrupted. And the deck is beatable. Like, the aggressive decks, the tempo decks, I think are the best ones against it. But going over the top of this deck does not exist. So that is the reason my pick is Titania, the mythic from the Brothers War, that if this deck is as good as I think it is, and plays as many of these copies this card as I think it does, or should, this card's $20 easy. Because Brothers War, no one opened it. But no one opened packs of Brothers War. Except for collector packs, which...
Yeah, right.
You can't play with foil cards in tournaments anymore, so...
Yeah, speaking of, I want to touch on some financial stuff here from some of the cards you've mentioned. Otawara, just a tad under $20, essentially a $20 card for the cheapest version. And there are 3 versions that there's the normal version, there's the borderless of the normal version, which is cool, and then there's a slightly more expensive, I don't know what they are, a different full art version, which is a little more expensive. It's $25. But the point I make is that we've seen a bunch of standard cards go up since the beginning of the year. Well, Otawara has climbed from 15 to 20 in the past couple of weeks, and I wouldn't be surprised if this cycle of channel lands, which has turned into the new hit cycle of lands, if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a comparable cycle from 5 or 10 years ago of just like that are just such a crutch of every format, and
Lightning Bolt, Dark Ritual, Ancestral Recall.
Yeah, right.
I was gonna go with shock lands. I was gonna be like, these are just the new
creature lands, maybe from Jund era, perhaps, like Raging Ravine, Celestial Colonnade, Modern
Even
era.
then, like all 5 of these ones are good.
Yeah,
and Wizards, when they made them, I mean, they're legendary. And like I've mentioned before with my pick of the week, we have plenty of weird reprint avenues that did not exist 10 years ago. But there is still a factor here that these are all named lands tied to the Kamigawa plane. That is just a thing.
And so Boseiju is the best of these. Has climbed from $30 at the beginning of December to 6 weeks later now to over $40.
Yep.
But the point I want to make is this: Wizards needs all the reprint equity they can get.
Yeah.
They just blew their Shockland load again with Ravnica Remastered. We've seen a bunch of fetch land reprints comparatively over the last few years. You know, they've done another cycle of creature lands. I think that them having a cycle of $20+ lands at Rare is prime. That they like. I think that they have some incentive to save this as a flagship modern product,
Sure.
right? Modern Horizons 3 is a set, right?
I think
Putting
MH3
these in there
is
probably not the
Khan's
place for
fetches.
them.
MH3 is Khan's fetches almost assuredly, but yes,
Yeah.
this is
Sure.
this is the this is the cycle of lands that 1 to 2 years from now Reddit will complain a lot about, and we will see a lot of price graphs about $50 to $60 Boseiju and like how did we get here, and then when it gets a reprint it will be reprinted but not in the quantity Reddit wants it to be or Twitter wants it to be, and then it'll go down $10, and this is the one they will chip away at over the years. I think you're 100% right.
Boseiju, I think, given everything I know about the card, just like has the potential to be $70. Like
Yes.
every deck that plays green in any format now plays at least one.
I want them for my commander decks, but they're so expensive that I just don't have them. I feel glad I brought my Odawaras a while back, but yeah, the entire cycle. I mean, I look at both of those; they've gone up in price. Let's look at Takenuma. Takenuma Abandoned Mire is also climbing. It's almost $9, up from like $5 several months ago. Yeah, they're all moving. Kamigawa was a while ago. But also, how about this? What about Slowkirk? Yeah, Slowkirk is an actual bulk rare.
That is
If I find a brick of 100 of them for a quarter a piece, I'd buy it. I don't know. This deck has the potential to be like a top tier deck. And that card was in Midnight Hunt, which when was the last time somebody opened a Midnight Hunt pack? Granted, those boxes are super cheap, so problem solved itself pretty quick. But like, I don't know.
But there's also a showcase version, which is a dark art weird version. Not I don't want to say weird, just a different kind of thing. And then there's also a double feature version with a different kind of art in the same style. So there's a lot of options for sure. Now, the double feature versions of cards are actually more expensive than the regular
that
ones.
The double feature box was just a stinker all around. And the cards themselves are not conducive to good gameplay in paper.
Yeah, I have the Tovolar deck, and it's and Commander, and it is it's fun, but it desperately needs another set to flush it out.
So on the topic of the cycle lands, I have a question that is mostly for Cass because I don't trust Corbin to answer it. But so we have all these non-basics. Like we have so many good non-basic choices now. Like Corbin probably lines his Merfolk deck. It's like we don't play like 12 islands anymore. It's like Odawara, whatever the flip thing from Zendikar Rising is, the one that draws cards.
We play 10 to 11 island.
Yeah,
but like there's so many good non-basics now that I think there's worth discussion of. Like number one, basics just aren't as good as they used to be financially. I mean, we've gotten inundated with cool arts. We've gotten inundated with like all these cool variants, and like the 32 Mountains player is slowly cutting mountains in their commander deck for new Sokazons and new whatevers, unless you're really mountain heavy for specific keyboard effects. Where do we go from here in terms of like designing around that for hate? Because like, I mean, Blood Moon can't bear the shoulders of Modern forever.
Sure. I think that like in Eternal formats you just let that happen. That doesn't matter. Like Blood Moon exists, and I think Blood Moon is punishing enough that it covers Eternal formats. In Standard, you have cards like, funny enough, Boseiju, which can punish non-basic heavy decks. But also there's a card that sees play in the mono red sideboard called Furnace Punisher. It's a red and 2 colorless for a 3/3 menace that at the beginning of your instep, each player loses 2 life unless they control 2 basic lands. So I think that the actual answer is you don't punish people for playing non-basics, you reward them for playing basics. Something that WotC's actually done a really good job with actually is printing hate bears that don't stop your opponent from doing something, but giving you a benefit when they do it, like Archivist of Agma and Orcish Bowmasters.
Yeah.
And I think what they should do is they should reward players for playing basics instead of punishing players for playing non-basics, because the worst things in Magic are doing your thing and being punished because the tools they gave you to do with the thing are easily hateable. Instead, what you should do is you should let the player do a thing and let the other player get rewarded for the opponent doing that thing so that the games go bigger. When games go bigger, not exclusively bigger in terms of like more expensive spells, more flashy things, but when players both get to do things, games are more fun.
There are more actions happening on the table.
Right. When one player just like plays a hate piece and the game is over for one or both players, like it's just miserable. That's not interesting.
It's the difference between Counterspell and Doomblade. People hate counterspells because they don't get to do their thing. People don't mind their spells getting doombladed because they feel like, oh, I gotta play it. And it's in game design, that's the way. Like if you think about League of Legends, to make it in a larger, League of Legends removed the denying creeps mechanic that Dota had because it was no fun to deny your opponent's resources. It was more fun to reward you for gaining resources. That was the design philosophy they talked about, and I always thought at the time how it related to Magic. Same.
One of the things people love to rag on about fire design is like, nobody runs out of cards, every card has a cantrip attached to it, and it's like, yeah, because mana flooding is the most boring thing in Magic. Like, the paradigm has just shifted. You just have to play cards that even though they do draw you cards, you also get to play them before you die to your opponent's cards they drew. Like, the game is just fundamentally different.
And the treasure tokens attached to everything make a big difference in limited.
Right, there's more decision points, and the game is no longer land do a thing that does one thing, go, and you can like attrition your opponent down to 0 cards. You have to play through your opponent's 5 or 6 cards that are remaining, even if you have outvalued them.
Like it was very interesting doing Khan's draft, throwback drafts on Arena, because Khan's was almost like playing a different kind of Magic, to be honest, like drafting like. The way the draft, you were like, do I cast a spell this turn or do I morph my creature? And that was the only decision you had to make. Yep. And if you missed your 5th land drop, you were probably screwed.
I built a bunch of
very different.
I built a bunch of 2010 standard decks last year to play, and what I found was honestly that they're all pretty boring. Like it was like Jund versus it was like the finals of GPDC, like Jund versus Blue White Wall of Woman's Control. And it was like. The interplay in the games was still there, and like there's still places to express skill or whatever.
You're playing Magic,
as much as I hate that term, but like there was so much less interesting things happen. Like I'll play my creature, you'll kill my creature, I'll counter your spell, I'll draw 2 cards. Like Jace the Mind Sculptor was the most interesting card in those games because it did the most. Like Bloodbraid Elf was the most interesting card out of Jund. There's no surprise that WotC has gone this way with designing cards, is because doing things is cool.
I remember having a conversation. And I think it was at GP Omaha when Aetherworks Marvel was the deck. And I think maybe Brad Nelson won. But we were having a conversation.
That's right.
And I had a group of players and coverage people. Certainly, I think some people who went on to work at Wizards probably had a hand in helping change it. But the conversation was, well, yeah, like Aetherworks Marvel sucks because it's Marvel, like we're just spinning the wheel, whatever. But also Teamer Energy sucks as well. And this was before Teamer Energy was the hated deck or whatever. It was just an also ran the Marvel, right? And it was like, but actually this deck sucks too. And the way I think Brad put it at the time was, you just play your best card every turn and then say go. That was it. Here's my card, your turn. Here's my card, your turn. And that was all you did. And now Magic. A lot more happens in Magic now. A lot more is going on.
Right. And I think it is hard for new players to get into formats where a lot of things are happening, which is why Standard is so important. Standard is the smallest, easiest format. You draft it F&M for like 6 months, you get some cards together, you build them on our red deck. You need to learn how Magic works before you're put into a world where your opponent's like, I will use the Grist ability on my Wall of Roots from Agatha's Soul Cauldron to mill a card and put a loyalty counter on my creature. Like, you don't have to deal with that in Standard. You have to deal with some weird stuff, for sure. Like, Soul Cauldron's still in Standard, but
Well, and the blue-white deck too, right? Not to, because we're always just like, just play mono red, and people are like, not everyone wants to play mono red, and they should get to play as well. But it's actually true that maybe the domain deck is the most expensive. I don't know offhand, but like most of Standard's pretty cheap if you're not playing Shield.
Triumph
like
Soup and Shieldred.
It's like Shieldred, Cavern of Souls, now Gix, and Besieger are the expensive cards in the format.
Interesting.
I would count like Triumph Soup in that too. Like if you're playing one
Triumphs
Triumph,
are
you're playing
pricey now,
several.
too. Yeah.
So, but like, I not that I can just start naming a bunch of decks offhand, but like blue-white, mono-red, those are two very different decks that are both using none of those cards.
All the rule decks that aren't the Soul Cauldron deck are pretty cheap. There's a red-white Convoke deck that's pretty cheap.
And we talk a lot of on this podcast about how it's bad the Wizards prints cards into the ground, blah blah blah. Now we're talking about Standard being cheap, and it may seem like those things are at odds, but the other piece of that we're talking about is that Standard cards are going up in price, but not to unreasonable levels. We're talking about cards going from 3 to 6 and from 5 to 10. You know, like levels that actually give people a reason to invest in Standard.
And these are also, I think, I'm going to preach to the choir a little bit here, but when the game piece crowd hears that card prices are going up, they and I'm generalizing a bit here, but they view that through the lens of you are trying to make more money on cards. And I am going to tell somebody that I will make a better margin selling a $3 card that I paid 50 cents on or $1 on than I will like paying fees on an $8 card that I paid $5 on. The margin is just better for me to buy all those low-ender cards. It is worse for the game for that to happen because it is better for the game for a player to be able to open a $19 wedding invitation from a $4 pack or from their prize pack, or when somebody pays a $5 or $10 entry fee for their standard event and then wins 5 packs, they can get value out of those 5 packs. They can open their big Bossagers and their big money hits from the salts of the earth and then sell those cards to the stores, and then the ecosystem grows because there are more dollars flowing through it. The higher price per card is not meant to be an artificial barrier that just prices you out of Standard because you work for a minimum wage, and like that sucks and that's a fault of capitalism. But like the game growing as a luxury hobby is a feature, not a bug, and that is better for the health of the long-term game, even though you would rather every card be $1.
Well, and it also just has to be said that while we're on that note, sorting cards is not free, and your human costs don't change whether you're selling a card for a 40% margin at $5 versus doing it at $2. Your profit margin doesn't change.
Yeah, it is. I think
but
I've
what
said this
does
before.
change is whether or not you can afford to pay your employees enough to exist, because there just has to be money in that, or it doesn't get done, except by the lowest common denominator sorting machine at the corporation, and you're just doing the capitalism anyway.
It's like the quote about video games where it's like, I want shorter games with worse graphics that are designed by people who work less and are paid more. It's like, I want Magic cards that are more expensive, more easily accessible locally, sorted by people who are paid a living wage. Like the cost of labor does not go down, and the cost of booster boxes from WotC does not go down. Those things only go up. And it's like, your local game store shouldn't exist if it's not paying their employees a reasonable wage. And a lot of game stores can't exist because they can't afford to pay their employees a reasonable wage because the industry is toxic because of all the things we talk about every week.
Most expensive by far.
Right. And when stores can purchase booster boxes from WotC at the ever-increasing cost, open them for singles and sell them, buying cards no longer is the fulcrum through which they have to leverage money, right? Like they don't have to be buying collections from people all the time. They still should, but it gives stores a real way to make money, pay their employees, keep the doors open, give you a third space to come hang out and play games, build community. Like all those things are necessary to facilitate the fun parts of LGSs. And it is good that there is cards that are expensive in Standard, but it's also good that there's a $50 Standard deck, several of them. It's good that, as someone who's played a lot of Magic in the last couple of years, I have lots of cards to loan out. When I go to a Tuesday night Standard at my shop, 20 people ask me for cards, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I got a land for you. I got these 2 spells for you. community solves a lot of the card availability issues, but also you can't have community without having a store where people spend money. Because of capitalism. If we all had third spaces that didn't cost money to be at, that'd be great, but like, you know, Ronald Reagan,
Well, like, so that's
etc.
yeah, that's that's what it comes down to. Is if you want you're choosing one way or the other. You want the absolute thing. The only thing that's going to be profitable.
Yep.
And you get your cards on Amazon, and you can play at home, and yeah, cool. We put the LGS out of business so that we save some money with Amazon. So not to false choice, blah blah blah, not strawman anything, but it's just kind of the concern or the thought process, and the reason why all of this standard attention and movement is a good thing for the game, and that is why you get pick of the week first.
A long pick of the week segment.
Well, because Cass is on the cutting edge of standard, and I'm here for it because not only do I actually want to build standard and get into it, but we've got the RCQ season going.
Corbin, that was a softball pitch of capitalism into an ad read, and you just got a strike.
I'm driving an hour and a half this weekend to play in an RCQ because that's how much fun I'm having with standard.
Well, before we move on, we want to, of course, give a shout out to our sponsor, MTG Stocks, which is where we go for all of our picks of the week and our breaking bulks, which are coming to you later in the show. Spoilers for you there. But that's where you can find the best, most up-to-date Magic financial information anywhere on the internet. And if you check out the premium side of the website, you can set alerts. You can track more stock and inventory and have all of that information at your fingertips. Go check out the premium half of the website. And in general, use mtgstocks.com. All right, next up, we've touched on this. Ravnica Remastered just came out. We talked about this in Pick of the Week, but this is a Shockland reprint in original art and original retro frames, which is pretty cool. And we're seeing, of course, the markets start to move as all of these cards hit. What is your all's impressions of this product as it's coming out?
I've heard the draft format's really fun. The
Into
set's
that.
pretty terrible to open if you are hoping to get your money's worth, from what I understand. But also, all the cards look cool.
Well, one of the interesting things with I noticed it with Doctor Who, and I noticed it with the Jurassic Park cards after Lost Caverns, is that some of the cards that come out of collector boosters actually go up in price after just a couple of months. And things that I thought that, Lord of the Rings did this as well as the other one. Cards that I thought, like, man, this is only like $2. This sucks. Nothing's worth anything. Actually did go up to be worth money after a few months. So it's possible that we could see Ravnica Remastered go the same way. But at the same time, I'm not sure what's going to take a lot of the value outside of Cyclonic Rift and Shocks.
I mean, the anime cards are kind of cool. Like, the Birds of Paradise looks sweet. Retro foils, maybe. It's really hard to say.
Serialized cards as well, right?
The serialized cards I would not count as a source of value for the product.
I understand.
I think the set having serialized cards it's not about Ravnica Remastered having serialized cards. It is about how I think Wizards is doing serialized cards in general very incorrectly. We've talked about how it's important to make things special. And they are very rapidly making serialized cards not special. Based on the number of cards that they have printed from serialized cards that have alternate cooler printings, how they're not using unique art for serialized cards, except on the Praetors were very cool. When they did the 5 Praetors, the only way you can get this art is if you do the serialized one. Those ones have held up. And they're not doing that. I mean, we're going to get people opening serialized cards, and they're going to bring them to the booth. We're going to offer a very, very low number compared to what their expectation was set at based on how they have perceived serialized cards in the past. And that is going to be a negative experience for both the customer and the store and everybody involved, because there's no market for Cindervines number 472. That I'm going to give you $20.
Serialized? Did that card actually get a serialized treatment?
It
I'm
did.
gonna fucking scream if it did.
Yep. We have some heavy hitters in this set for serialized cards, and again, these are all out of 500. They could have lowered the quantity.
So
of the
DJ,
serialized version.
that's real. Cindervines is serialized out of 500. What
Correct.
else is there?
We have Void Slime. We have Blazing
No, it makes
Archon.
sense.
We have Blazing Archon. We have Dreadbore, which just got power crept a month ago.
Red Boar is
Apparently, Blazing Archon 420 transacted on Facebook.
That's
cool.
funny, but not worth.
Yeah.
Look,
like,
is Blazing Archon your opponents can't attack you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have that in my yell, and it's
The
almost
All
come
Star
out.
from
It's so
2006, right up there
Exactly,
with
it's such an old card.
Right up there with, I was just about to say, Tidespout Tyrant. Another, wow, you
Jesus.
played this in Legacy Reanimator, check your back and get a colonoscopy card.
Yeah.
Like, who
Wow.
wants Stitch in Time? Nobody wants Stitch in Time. I think this set could have been very good if it had serialized cards, if you chop the number of cards that got serialized in half, and then you cut the quantity of each serialized cards by at least half.
This is literally what we said with Masterpieces when they started doing
Yep.
Masterpieces, and then we hit whatever set.
Amonkhet was the oh god, they're doing it wrong, and
They
then,
turned it up from like 10 or 15 a set to like 30, and we were like,
Yeah.
they're gonna run out, and then a year later they ran
and
out.
then we had somebody open a Masterpiece Divert, and what do you do?
I
with
opened
that?
I opened up like several cases and got one Black Vice of whatever set that was.
That's just unlucky though. Like it's good
Yeah.
for the set to have a nat one. It's fun. Like if
Right.
Cindervines is the only stinker, and the rest is like Shocklands and Cyclonic Rift, and then they just throw Cindervines in there for giggles. Love it. Love a good
So-
nat fail.
when Amonkhet or when Hour of Devastation came out, I bought a booster case of it, and one of my first packs I opened, it was like my 6th or 7th pack or something, had a Masterpiece, and I forget which one it was, but it was like one of the worst ones, and I was so bummed out. And then my 8th pack had like a very miscut, like half and half full art basic land, and then the rest of the case was just all those basics. So it was like the lowest low and the highest high. I got like $6,000 out of that case. It was insane.
That's wild.
But I mean, you can't top that because now you can get Sword of the Peruns retro frame serialized.
Yep,
And
just what you've always wanted.
To be fair though, like there's a lot of bad cards in the serialized slot, but there are some good ones like Birds
There
of
are.
Paradise or I think the Arclight Phoenix is cool enough that I'm thinking about trying to track down a cheap playset. Like I think that's
I like Arclight Phoenix is a great one.
Yeah.
It is. Especially when they need to balance out the number of serialized cards among the Ravnica blocks. Like, they can't just have it be
Right.
Dark Confidant, Life from the Limb, Shocklands. That they need something from Guilds of Ravnica. I think Arclight has earned its spot there. But we just have so many stinkers that it's going to dilute the... And, like, they did Commanders. They could have done 1 in 100 for just Legendary Creatures. Like, Legendary Creature, 1 in 100. There's 100 quantity. Like, Tolsimir Wolfblood, you don't need 500 of it. Just make somebody chase number 99 or number 100. That's fine.
Did we?
Look, it's just corporate, man. They did something that worked, and they're going to do it until
Where-
it doesn't.
Can you send me the list of serialized cards?
I'm just looking on mtgstocks.com, and if you sort by value, they're all at the bottom because they all have NA for their price.
Okay, cool. Sets. I need to know something, and I need to find it organically. We didn't get Momir Vig as a serialized card. We didn't get what's that other blue-green legend everyone loves? The one that like puts counters on things and gets their abilities.
Experiment Kraj.
We didn't get Experiment Kraj. We didn't get like any of the actual cool card. Did we get the Blood Witch?
Isolde?
Lizolda. That was a fun one. But this may speak to those are all like original Ravnica cards, right?
Right, but like we got
But they picked
Aurelia
that
Exemplar
over-
of Justice.
But they picked Corbin. They picked Mind Leech Mass over Momir Vig.
Right.
Yeah.
Like-
yeah.
Also, there are some cards from War of the Spark that probably should be on here. I guess did they do any Planeswalkers? They can't do serialized Planeswalkers, probably. Could you imagine a serialized Teferi Time Raveler?
Well, it's coming
Narset?
eventually, right?
Like those cards didn't need more cool, expensive printings, but like that would have probably been good. You know, they got Ghostway, which is a great choice. That means they like were paying attention. I really feel like the number of serialized cards was a decree from corporate, and then whoever was in charge of picking these was just like, gotta put some stinkers in because they told me to put in 64 of them.
So
I think that describes a lot of
they just did their best.
high level, decisions.
I wonder if there's a way around that. And I understand what you're saying. I wonder if there's a way around that to have 64 serialized different cards, but reduce the quantity by 5. Like 500%. Like one of 100s.
That's just like... The corporate decree is they want 32,000 serialized cards in the set to be printed, right? That to me feels like how that would work.
Yeah.
They did it. It worked. It's going to do it again.
And
it doesn't work.
Honestly, despite all the negative things I heard about the set leading into it, it sold really well for us on release weekend. People seem to be excited about drafting it. People do love Ravnica, despite the set being kind of a weird mishmash of some things that struggled. So it's
part of the appeal, I think, right? I've enjoyed the remastered sets on Arena. They did like Innistrad Remastered, and it was a cool mix of old cards like Travel Preparations, plus like newer cards from Shadows of Innistrad, and then the really new stuff. Like
Corbin, you can't say newer cards from Shadows of Innistrad. It was 8 years ago. Move on.
Well, in comparison to the original Innistrad, of course. But yeah, and then so I think the idea is the same there with Ravnica Remastered. It's essentially a Ravnica cube.
Right.
Like, that's the appeal. We always talked about how Wizards could monetize cube as a concept. You can't really sell cube in a box or anything, but you can sell remastered sets that replicate the experience pretty well.
I would... Sure. Something I know we've talked about before... I'm sure it's just off the table completely, but like just reprinting boxes of old sets is probably just like never going to happen. But
this is what we get. Yeah,
I would pay full retail for a newly printed booster box of Rise of the Eldrazi. Obviously, there's a million reasons why they can't do that, so we get these instead. But like, this is a good middle ground.
Yeah, and they get a. Well, listen, I say this. I'm looking at it in a positive light here. Oh, the designers really get to do it the way they want. It's like that time when Nuka Penna, where they reimagined it on Arena and changed some stuff. And the premise was that this is how the designers would have designed it if they had the ability to go back in time, right? So I look at Ravnica Remasted and I'm like, they've really curated this awesome Ravnica cube. And maybe the reality is that someone said you have to pick X cards from each Ravnica set, go. And there wasn't exactly a lot of time put into developing the draft format of this supplemental set. So who knows?
The draft format seems to be good, so I think that's really put their time,
Yeah, let's hope so anyway. But yeah, that's the update there. All right, final thing before we head out of here this week. There was news out of the Regional Championship Series. No longer is Dreamhack having them. Dreamhack having them when they weren't on Arena never made a ton of sense in the first place, if you ask me. But that, even if it was cool to have a ticket to Dreamhack as a result of it, which I guess I got to do and experience, that was fun. But yeah, the whole thing was just kind of odd. It was always in a hotel attached to Dreamhack, not necessarily as a part of Dreamhack. Just this weird, cross of interests that always felt sort of decreed from above from the esports era. Okay, so whether that's true or not, I don't really know. What I do know is that starting later this year, Dreamhack will not be hosting the regional championships. Star City Games will be. Star City, you say? Well, I haven't knew they were even doing events. Well, that's because they don't have coverage anymore. Hopefully they bring that back one day. But the SC Cheekon series has been going, and might hear it tell it was going strong. They've got Magic events, they've got Flesh and Blood events, and now they will have the Regional Championship Series attached to them later this year, and that is going to be huge, regardless of how any of this other, how you feel about any of the rest of it. Just having the Regional Championships attached to SCG is a huge development in the world of Magic events.
Two things. SCG actually knows how to run Magic events.
Mm-hmm.
Way better than Dreamhack. Two, the first SCG event is located in my backyard, and I am praying, if there is a God, please put it in the Dulles Expo Center so I can roll out of bed, drive 15 minutes, and show up. God, please.
They probably will be, right? Like, everyone knows that any event in DC is actually at the Dulles Expo Center, except for that one actual GPDC that Star City ran in downtown.
That one
Which
was
was fun.
fine. Dulles
That
is
was
better. Also,
Well,
if,
they're different experiences for sure.
if there is a regional championship Dulles, you can bet money that I will release like a 200 restaurant long list of all the best places to eat within like 5
Ooh.
miles.
Go.
If you eat bad that weekend, it's your own damn fault.
At the Dulles Expo Center?
I was gonna
Yeah.
say there are plenty of alluring
Walmart.
fast food joints within
Yeah,
walking
there
distance
are.
of that
Yeah,
fast
there's a
the thing.
Walmart right across the street.
That's the thing. Like, you hop on the highway for like 30 seconds, get off at the first exit. You are in Koreatown, my guy.
Oh, well, I never walked.
Well,
I
you'll
just
hop
did
in
the
the back of
fast
my
food.
sweet whip, and I'll drive you there, and we'll get bibimbap, and it'll be amazing.
Let's go. Well, it's going to be fun. I think I'm a fan as well of having a Magic first. And look, I'm not denigrating the people who are running the Magic stuff for DreamHack and know how to run Magic events. However, it is still, you've got a lot of trade-offs when you're working with under an umbrella DreamHack and you're working at such a larger scale than just running something that SCG is already doing, which is running SCG
Right.
cons and putting a regional championship on. Yeah, it's going to be big news. Don't know what's going to happen with it. I personally am hoping that coverage happens and I can be involved. Across anyone at SCG listening, shout out there. Give me a call. But
Corbin,
that's
the
where our
only
seeds are
person who's
going.
allowed to get a job on this podcast is Eric Lopez.
Good point.
It's
Good.
true.
Look at that. Got a shout out even with Jason.
Do we have an update on the Lope Watch?
He got hired.
He got hired? Good.
I
Good.
don't know if it was because of
Wait,
us.
really?
We'll
but
take credit for it.
I'm happy to take credit for it. Yes.
EJ, we shouted him out and then he got hired. I don't know what else there is
Yeah.
to that.
Lope Watch 2024? He got hired. Who wants to break some bulk?
Let's break some bulk before we get out of here this week. Who wants to go first?
Breaking bulk time. Breaking bulk time. Break.
Oh, yeah, Breaking Bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking bulk. The end.
I think it's Cass. You brought it up. Let's hear it.
I have a Dominaria United White Common.
Lay down arms.
That is Brothers War Uncommon.
Corbin getting sets wrong even for sets that he should know better.
I've been cooking y'all lately on these standard cards.
I have no excuse, and I have an excuse. It's behind me. It's that machine that picks things for me. But I've gotten much better at having cards for Breaking Bulk and much worse at guessing cards for Breaking Bulk.
It's true. You're
ever
getting rusty, old man.
Ever since I have outsourced that task. White Common from Dominaria United. I know what the set symbol looks like. I haven't lost it all.
Is it the Defender card?
No, it's not the Defender card. Do y'all want a card type?
I'm gonna throw in the White Common towel right now. Like, I'm all good.
Corbin's looking it up, as I can see on his webcam. He's just really.
I am
scrolling.
not, but go ahead. Go on.
It is Destroy Evil. 1 and a white, instant. Destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater or enchantment. Card is 50 cents on the buy list and a $1.31 TCG low.
I would not have
Sure,
guessed that.
I am sure
is-
that I have some.
It is a premier removal spell in standard because it kills Up the Beanstalk, Leyline Binding, Wedding Announcement, and any creature with a 4-but, like Shieldred. So, cards in every white deck, and nobody really has their Dominating United Commons picked yet. So, sift those, find your bulk, and break it.
Sure. Again, nature is healing. What was it? 2 years ago, we had just standard sets that had one mythic, and I mean, Shieldred's a good example of this. Like 2 years ago, we had Dominaria United. It had Shieldred and nothing. That was it.
Yep.
Now we have cards from that set that are not Shieldred that you can open and be happy with the pack you opened.
Yep.
All right. While Corbin is scrounging, I have a weird card because it was originally printed in Fallen Empires, and that version, or I should say those versions, because Fallen Empires has multiple arts per set, are not a pick. The Fallen Empires ones are poop, but the reprints are worth something. And the most recent reprint, I believe, was Masters 25.
A Fallen
Which was-
Empires card?
several years ago. Yes.
Him to Turok?
Very good guess, but no.
High Tide.
No. I don't think High Tide got reprinted in that set, but so Masters
I don't
25.
think so
I'll give you some
either.
other sets too. 7th edition. It's a pick from 7th edition. It's a pick from 5th edition. And then none of the Fallen Empires ones are anything. But this is it's red.
Valid? Red.
It's red. Corbin,
Yeah, I got
did
nothing,
you,
man.
did you hear the words that I said?
I got nothing for you.
I'm gonna feel like a jackass when I don't know this, but yeah, fire away.
Goblin War Drums.
Oh, I know that card.
Yeah, okay. I feel like a
3-mana
jackass.
enchantment. Creatures you control have menace. It was worded very differently in
Yep.
Fallen Empire. Not very differently, but just it had to not been keyword coded yet.
It has 4 different arts, right?
Yeah, all those Fallen Empires
Yeah,
commons are just a bunch of different art variants. But yes, the Masters 25 one sells for over $1 on TCG Player regularly. And the 7th edition one and the 5th edition one, they don't sell as frequently, but they're still averaging over 50 cents a card. It's just a red card for Goblin decks that just falls into that little commander niche slot of somebody that wants to build a deck where every card's around $1 or $2, and
Yep.
they can put together goblins and it works and it does the thing and it lets their goblins overwhelm people and it's fine and you should pick them. And Masters 25 was a long time ago and it has not been printed since.
True. Alright, Corbin, hit us with your breaking bulk.
Oh, I'm gonna hit you with this one, and you're all are going to be blown down. You're not gonna get it. I got a green
Got
card.
it.
Blown down by the. It's a green card from Journey into
The-
Nyx.
Corbin, before we jump to this, you're like, I'm gonna blow you down and you kind of sputtered there. I have a little pitch for you by the Storm and Corbin. It's free. You can take it. You can use it. You can put it.
You think I haven't been called Storm and Corbin before?
Yes.
You think I haven't knocked over production equipment and been called Storm and Corbin before? You think you're that original? Get out of here.
What rarity is this Journey into Nyx card?
Well, if there was, not really a fair question.
No.
That's you're supposed to tell us that.
So it's a token.
You know how there's like CU
So it's
for common, uncommon?
The 3/3 enchantment centaur.
There's like CU for common, uncommon, and like RM for rare mythic. This would be the T category.
It's the
For transsexual?
Or token.
It's the boar from Curse of the Swine, or is that
It isn't.
Born of the Gods?
It's not that because it's not in this set. It's also not the 3/3, which is also not in
The
this
black
set.
green snake.
Also not this. Well, it could have been the snake, but no, because I said it's a green card, not a black green.
Yeah, but you're the kind of person that would have said it's a green card and then have it be a multicolored card. So
I am that kind of person, but that's not what I did.
It's also not a green card, it's a token. Cards are a specific type of game object that can exist in zones. Tokens don't exist in zones except for in play and in the graveyard briefly when they die.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether or not to call it green or colorless. I thought it would give it away if I said colorless. Anyway, it's a green/colorless token, depending on how you look at it. It's actually the most expensive token in the set. Over $1.
Is it a Hydra token?
It is a Hydra
Yeah.
token.
Yeah.
It's a Star Hydra.
the Hydra Broodmaster.
Yeah. Whatever the intro deck rare was.
I won't lie, I did that one to try to trick you guys.
The card that destroys you in limited because it's a 7/7 for 6 that makes a bunch of tokens.
Yeah. That card was messed up.
Yeah, that's true. That format sucked.
It's weird because I kind
That
of
was-
like Triple Theros draft.
Yeah, Triple Theros was great.
Yeah.
It was what it set out to do.
Yeah.
That was what I remember thinking about it. Like they designed the set very intentionally to make auras not suck and /matter, which they did, but the format was stack 3 or 4 things together. Is essentially playing Mutate before there was Mutate.
I mean, there was a lot of things with like the monstrous decks, with like Nessie and Asp, and there was like Sea God's Revenge, I think, was one that was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There were
that was a
things
good
that like punished it and did other things.
Yeah, like it was fine. Like the format was fine.
I just heard Corbin be salty about a 10-year-old limited format.
It just would look.
I just heard that. I didn't see it or feel it. I heard it.
Kinda in the sense that, like, I think that they were very successful at like designing what they set out to design.
You said it was fine in the same cadence that you said a lot of people are nice guys.
A lot of people are nice guys, DJ. I don't know what the problem is with saying.
You were like, Theros Limited was fine in the same tone of voice that you use when your wife's like, we should have an open relationship, honey. It's fine.
If that's what people... I don't understand.
We've talked a lot about Magic Finance, playing Magic, and if the cost of cards is costing you the shirt off your back, well, maybe I can suggest a new shirt to you. You can go to Coalesce Apparel and Design. Shop for some t-shirts, some with my face, some with Jim Davis's face, some with, I believe there's a new Bosch and Roll shirt if you're into Legacy and you're into that. You can use our code Brainstorm Brewery for a percentage off at checkout that I don't remember. 10% off at checkout. That's 1/10 of a shirt. That's like a whole sleeve for free. Check it out. Buy some shirts, get some good designs. Maybe clothe yourself, maybe don't. Maybe use it as like a little towel you like wrap around your, with your waist when you're like walking around. It's a little hot outside.
Anime running? When you're Naruto running?
Coalesce Apparel and Design shirts look great thrown on the bench by the basketball court when it's skins versus shirts. You just peel it off, throw it over there, and you just like play some ball with your friends. They're great for that. In a pinch, you can use it to like wipe up a spill. They're so utilitarian. Buy yourself some shirts.
I've heard they're very good tourniquets.
Get shot for legal reasons. That's probably a joke. Probably. 10% off with code Brainstorm Brewery at checkout.
I'm wearing one.
Look at you. If you get shot right now, you are set. Probably.
Probably.
And speaking of probably, you probably had a good time tonight, and I hope you did too. See you next week, folks, and remember, from Corbin's house to yours, Corbin loves you, and your parasocial relationship with him is actually good and cool. Bye.
Bye, everybody.